This is the Bartholomew Town Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Bartholomew Town Podcast, Rhode Island's podcast of record. It's Bill Bartholomew here with you for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. And, of course, whenever breaking news happens. Today, welcoming back Congressman Jim Langevin, who has joined the program many times in the past. And today, our discussion primarily focusing on Russia, Ukraine, and his perspective, having just returned from the Munich Security Conference last week, as well as the Congressional District 2 race, which, of course, is relevant because Congressman Langevin announced, like a month and a half ago now, that he will not be seeking reelection. A flurry of candidates have entered into the Democratic primary or have announced that they're exploring entering into the race, not to mention several Republicans as well. Recently, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse told us here on B-Town that he's worried about what he described as a circular firing squad inside the Democratic Party that could pave a pathway for an Alan Fung or another Republican to take the race because of what I guess we can describe as an internal battle inside the Democratic Party. So we get Congressman Langevin's feedback on that as well. As always, appreciate you joining here on the program. Remember, if you'd like to support this independent show, well, there's a few ways you may do so. You, of course, can simply follow, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're listening right now. And if you want to go a step further, head to patreon.com/BartholomewTown or just click the support link wherever you're listening. For as little as $3 per month, you can help to sustain the independent journalism, entertainment, opinion, and analysis that B-Town has become known for. Again, patreon.com/BartholomewTown. Okay, let's get right to it today. Congressman Jim Langevin here on B-Town. All right, Congressman Langevin, thanks as always for your time. Very much appreciated. Look, right now, there's no question there's a major global crisis unfolding. I just saw some horrific video of a tank, what appears to be a Russian tank, running over a civilian vehicle in Ukraine. This is ramping up. You just returned from the Munich Security Conference. I guess assessing everything right now, what's your take on what's happening in Russia, with Russia, Ukraine, and where do we go from here?
The decision that Vladimir Putin made to invade Ukraine is absolutely outrageous and unconscionable. And I condemn that decision and his actions in the strongest possible terms. We haven't seen this type of aggressive action where basically a dictator is using his military to invade another country since before World War II. And this is a troubling development. And I'm very pleased that the Biden administration has used all of his influence to unite our NATO and European allies to condemn Vladimir Putin's actions in this invasion, and it has now imposed harsh sanctions against Russia for these actions.
Do you think that the sanctions that President Biden admitted that they weren't likely going to serve as a deterrent, do you think they've gone far enough? Is it something that needs to be ramped up as we see this crisis unfold at what seems to be a higher level each and every day?
So I think the sanctions that the administration, along with our European allies and NATO allies, have imposed so far are very strong. Can they be stronger? I would like it to be as strong as possible. So whatever those next steps are, if there still are things on the table, look, I believe that now is the time to impose the sanctions, the harshest sanctions possible. I think what the administration has already done with our partners and allies in Europe and NATO are very strong. And if they can be stronger, I would applaud even and call for even stronger sanctions. But cutting off access to the world banking system, making sure that we're freezing out Russia's banks and their ability to engage in international banking activities, it's going to hurt the Russian economy. We want to send a strong signal that we are going to leave no stone unturned to punish Russia harshly, especially Vladimir Putin, for these actions. I think it's time also to sanction Putin himself.
I suppose that would be the next major step. Some people identify Putin as perhaps the wealthiest person in the world. So, sort of chopping his legs out from under him in that regard could be a significant step forward. Look, Ukraine's not a NATO member. That's as basic as anything. But, there's a lot of talk that this could result in an incursion into NATO territory. Is that something that you're hearing whisperings of? And is that an extreme concern right now? Because that seems like it would lead to, gosh, I don't want to say World War III, but I mean, this is on the precipice of something unprecedented since World War II.
I am very troubled by Putin's invasion into Ukraine, and I'm troubled by his words statements that he's made in the past that says that one of the greatest catastrophes of the 21st century is the Soviet Union falling apart, and that he said that he basically would like to reconstitute the borders of the former Soviet Union. So I think we need to take him at his word. Clearly, this is one step already. He's gone into Crimea. He's gone further now into Ukraine, and is taking Ukraine. It appears he's going to try to take it by force. I hope he's not successful, but it does beg the question: what borders are we talking about of the old Soviet Union, and who's next? What country is next on his hit list? So we need to have a strong, united front now. Punish Russia and Putin severely, harshly for this invasion into Ukraine, and be ready if he does go further into the NATO countries, and be willing to fight him at every step of the way. And where I can applaud the Biden administration for ramping up our military presence in those NATO countries to reassure them, but also to be ready that if Putin goes further into those NATO countries, that then we have a military response.
Back to the sanctions, what are the specific economic implications of these sanctions that have already been implemented and the sanctions that may be implemented in terms of both offensively against Putin and Russia, and then looking in terms of implications perhaps in the Western world?
Yeah, so I was on a briefing with the White House top officials last night, including Secretary Austin, Secretary Blinken, Secretary Raimondo, and Secretary Yellen. And they were outlining the various steps that have been taken so far. And just to summarize, we're denying access to many of the major banks now within Russia, their ability to engage in banking on the international level. There are now going to be severe supply chain limitations, access to parts and goods that Russia needs to keep its military functioning, to keep its economy functioning. The sanctions will be crippling over time, but we shouldn't be under any illusions to think that it's going to happen overnight, right? It takes time. Putin has gone to great lengths to build up reserves, both in cash and gold, so that he can basically has a rainy day fund, so he can ride out some of these sanctions for a time. Same thing with building up his supply chain, but eventually those things run out, and the well is then dry, and he has to go back to the international markets, and that's where the sanctions will be most severe. When those reserves have run out and you can't replenish them, it's going to be a problem for the Russian economy.
So it's a bit of a waiting game, but there is an optimistic from a U.S. strategic policy. There's optimism that this could be effective at some point down the line.
Yes, yeah. Eventually it's going to the sanctions are going to really have a strong, harsh impact on the Russian economy, and it's the price that Russia will pay because of Putin's irresponsible and outrageous actions by invading Ukraine.
Last question on Russia. You've been a champion in terms of cybersecurity. There's no doubt about it that we have seen. In fact, I was just hearing an anecdote yesterday in New York that, Iran was able to hack into a small dam in upstate New York. And, even though it's a minor asset in terms of the entire United States or Western Hemisphere, or however you want to frame it, there are threats that can be just on a practical level. You can back up sewage if you hack into a wastewater treatment plant. Is the U.S. and then specifically Rhode Island prepared for any potential cyber attacks that may be launched by Russia, a Russia-Sino alliance, or any other enemy, so to speak, at this point in time?
So yes, we're prepared, but understanding that any type of a nation-state attack is going to be very difficult to defend against. We are at the top levels of our government. We are aware that this is a significant threat that could possibly come our way. It's clearly Vladimir Putin has used cyber offensive capabilities against Ukraine. We've seen it, and it's ongoing, happening right now as we speak. But I've spoken to the very top levels and people in government that are responsible for protecting our cybersecurity. So General Nakasone at U.S. Cyber Command Jenny Easterly at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, at the Homeland Security Department, Ann Neuberger, Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber, and of course, Chris Inglis, our National Cyber Director. Everyone is on board and is aware of the threats. CISA has, the Jen Easterly's direction, has created the Shields Up program or operation within CISA to make sure that they are providing information to people how they can protect their networks, and that all hands are on deck right now protecting U.S. government networks.
For daily digital content, follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, even LinkedIn. Just search for me at Bill Bartholomew. Well, I know you have a lot of questions about things happening with cannabis policy here in the state and cannabis in general. It's something that has become quite mainstream, and it's something that I feel is an area totally underserved in this market and in general. And I'm not talking explicitly about cannabis culture and things like that. I mean, there's plenty of content in that regard. But more specifically on the nuances of testing and the mechanics of legalization, medical marijuana, and so on and so forth. Every month here on B-Town, check out Inside RI Cannabis, presented by Pure Vita Labs, monthly here on Rhode Island's podcast of record, Bartholomew Town.
Now back to B-Town.
I want to pivot in these last couple of minutes here to the 2nd Congressional District in Rhode Island, your district that, you've become synonymous with for an entire generation and really for everybody here in Rhode Island, announcing that you're not seeking reelection. Sort of 2 questions, I suppose. One, right now, there's a significant number of people who are either in a Democratic primary or are exploring potential candidacy, not to mention several Republicans, and who knows what we'll see from independent candidates and so on and so forth. Not asking for an endorsement here, but Senator Whitehouse last week on the podcast here told me that he was worried about a circular firing squad, so to speak, within the Democratic Party. Do you think that having a robust number of candidates right now is a positive thing, or are you concerned that could result in people pointing, well, he's too progressive, she's not progressive enough, oh, this position, that position, and all of a sudden you have a pathway for victory for a Republican?
Well, unity is an important thing. I understand. We're a big Democratic Party and diverse views, and we have a wealth of candidates. It's kind of a wealth of riches in the sense of candidates, people that are willing to put themselves forward as candidates, quality candidates, and with that comes robust debates and aggressive campaigns, and so you have to be worried about that it doesn't cross the line and get too aggressive, and then opens a door for a Republican to come in. Look, I want to see a Democrat fill this seat and continue to serve the congressman or congresswoman from the 2nd Congressional District. And I certainly will be working the fall to see that happens. But right now, we do have several candidates have announced in the primary, and we're going to have to work through that, as do the Republicans. They have I believe 3 candidates at the very least on the Republican side. They're going to be going through that same process. It's a competition, if you will. There'll be debates, and let the best person win.
Do you think you'll make an endorsement before the primary?
I haven't decided that yet. It's possible, but I'm still weighing that. It's still too early. First of all, the filing period is not until late June, so we perhaps don't even know what the entire field looks like. I don't expect that I'm making a decision about endorsing anyone before the filing period, but we'll see as time unfolds.
Last question. Just on a human level, are you going to miss this? Are you going to miss this world and whatever may be next for you? People say, oh, you're going to be the next president of Rhode Island College or, whatever it may be. Do you sense, is there some sadness, just on a human level as you prepare to depart this office that you've carved out?
Of course. First of all, it's been the honor and privilege of a lifetime for me to represent the people of the state of Rhode Island, the 2nd Congressional District in the United States Congress. I'm humbled by the trust that people have placed in me all these years. And I've gone to Washington every day with the idea of trying to make people's lives better. How can I serve? How can I make a difference for the families back home that are struggling to make ends meet, trying to make their lives better? And so it's been an incredible honor and a privilege. And it's what I've done for most of my adult life. First office I ever held was back in 1985 as a delegate to our state's constitutional convention, and then 6 years as a state rep 6 years as Secretary of State, and for the last going on now 22 years as the United States Congressman for Rhode Island. So certainly there will be aspects of public life that I will miss. And there'll be other things that, that I won't miss, like the partisan, infighting and so often we make the what I think are, the easy things, we make them difficult. So yes, there will be things I miss, but I'm where I'm young enough and healthy enough now. I want to be able to have a better work-life balance, and not having to get on an airplane every week to fly to Washington would be nice. And burning the candle at both ends all the time, something that's more balanced. And that's something that keeps me close to home here in Rhode Island. I love the state and the people who live here. And again, it's been just an incredible privilege to have served them and represent the Congress all these years, which I'm incredibly grateful.
Congressman Langevin, we always appreciate your time here and look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Bill. Good to talk to you.
Rhode Island's podcast of record, B-Town.
At HealthSource RI for Employers, we provide access to health insurance to more than 1,100 local businesses and nonprofits, and 96% of them renew through us every year. Maybe it's our choice of 19 different health plans, our 10 years of customizing solutions, or our one local team of dedicated experts helping employers find quality health insurance. See how our numbers stack up for you. Learn more at healthsourceri.com/employers.